Hello there, it's Cassie. I hope you're having a good week. I am over on the Brutus Monroe blog today, and I'm going to be using some fun products from Brutus Monroe. So let's go ahead and jump into what we're going to be doing. I am using the Llama Friends stamp set, which is new, and the Bold Rainbow 6x6 paper pad. I love this paper pad. I have not really gotten a chance to break into it, but I am excited to today. I'm using my circle Nestabilities, just a small one, along with some white cardstock that I have, and I'm running that through my Big Shot on my desk here, and I have a circle all cut out and ready to go. I had this idea in my head about what I wanted to do with this card, and so I'm going to get to stamping here in just a second. But before I do that, I'm going to trim down some paper. Now this paper is the mic drop cardstock, and that is not actually in the store. That came in the June kit, but it would be so easy to make your own just using the mic drop embossing powder, which is in the store. So I will have that linked down below. It would be super easy to make your own. I've done that many times with embossing powder, and it's fun to do. So I'm trimming down my paper, and as you saw, I cut out a big rectangle from the center there, and that's simply because I want to save as much of that cardstock as I possibly can. So I've got everything cut down, and it is going to cover the front of an A2 size card. And before I start assembling, I'm going to stamp. So I'm stamping my little sassy llama with some detail raven ink. And then I'm going to start coloring that in with my Copics. This ink is Copic friendly, and it's super simple Copic coloring. I'm starting off with E41, then I'm going to come in with some shading of E43, and I did stamp that onto some Express It cardstock because that is my favorite cardstock to Copic color on. And I am going to come back in with some E44 after I've decided. I started out trying to do some stippling, but then I decided to just kind of go into it. This llama has so much detail on him that you really don't have to go too crazy with your shadowing or your shading. You can just kind of do a little bit here and there, but the detail will take care of the rest. And then I'm going to shade that out with the E43 and then go over that once again with my E41. And then I'll start coloring his little, I don't even know what you want to call that, but I'm going to color it with Y26 and R46. So that'll kind of match the rainbow cardstock that I have for my background. But I am going to fussy cut him out before we go any further. And I know a lot of people can't stand fussy cutting, but I don't mind. And this is such an easy image to cut that I'm just using my Brutus Monroe scissors, and I'm cutting him out because I want to pop him up. But before I do that, I've got that scrap of white cardstock, and I'm going to do some embossing. Now this is where I pull out my mic drop embossing powder and my embossing ink from Brutus Monroe. And typically I don't think this powder is necessarily a detail powder, but you can do it if you're very careful. And I've conditioned my stamps with my hand. That just kind of conditions them up a little bit so that they're ready to take the ink. And then I'm going to cover that with my mic drop embossing powder. Now if you notice, I did go over the front of that with my magic powder bag to start, and now I'm kind of putting that powder back in. And I like to live dangerously. I probably should have used like some sort of scratch paper underneath, but surprise, surprise, I didn't get too much of that embossing powder anywhere but on the cardstock. And now when I'm heating this, because it has glitter in it, I do like to start from the back, so that way I don't get too much of that glitter going too crazy everywhere else. And then I go to the front and heat it the rest of the way. I'll trim this down using my Fiskars wire trimmer, and then I'll trim off just a little bit more. And then I'm going to start assembling my card. But I do decide that I want to have some slanted cuts, some side angle there, because I thought that would go really well with that triangle background. And then I discover that the "You Are So" needs a little bit more trimmed off of it, so I'll just grab my wire trimmer, and that's why I like this, because I can see exactly where I'm cutting. But I love that saying, "You are so glamorous," and that little sassy llama sure is. So I've put some foam squares on the back of my llama, and then I'll peel off that backing paper, and I'm going to tack that right down to that circle nestability that I cut out earlier. And then I'll take that E43 Copic just to give him a little bit of ground. I didn't want him floating. And then I'll go over the top of that with that E41 to blend that out a little bit better. And then I'm going to start assembling. So I'll take some liquid glue and I will put that on the back of my circle, and then I'll tack that down. And I do want this to go off a little bit. This will just add a little bit of interest. And then I'm going to use that same liquid glue to tack down my sentiments. And I just love the background. I love the triangular look, and I love how it goes so well with the angled cut on my sentiments. I thought that was just really cool. And then I'll flip that over and I will trim off that circle, what's left of it, what's hanging over there. And then I'm going to start assembling the rest of the card. So I'll keep using that liquid glue, and I'm just going to put it on the outside here so that I can tack it down to my cardstock. And when I have that ready, I do have just a white card base ready to go. I'm going to put some liquid glue all over that background because that is going to cover the front of that A2 size card, just completely cover that. But I don't want to stop there. So I take the llama that I had stamped earlier, and I grab some surface ink from Brutus Monroe in the color suede, and I stamp that out 3 times on the bottom. I always love the look of the inside of a card when it is, you know, it has something on the inside, and I don't know why I don't always do it, but I just don't. But this time I did. And to finish it off, I've grabbed some Nuvo Dream Drops in the color Love Potion, because if he's going to be glamorous, he does need a little bit of glamour in the shape of Nuvo Dream Drops. And once I'm happy with how I have those Dream Drops, I'm going to take that and I'm going to just smack that down on top of that embossing powder container just to flatten those dots out a little bit, and that's going to finish off this card. So why don't you go ahead and head over to the Brutus Monroe blog to check out what we've been doing lately. And while you're there, go ahead and peruse the shop. Check out the new stuff that's in there if you haven't already done so. If you like this video, hit the like button. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so. And as always, thank you so much for stopping by.